Hey, good morning and good afternoon again to everyone. This is Ramya Murali from Exxat. Thank you for joining us for the M1M webinar part 1. Today we will be discussing about how we can send the slot request in the traditional way and how we can manage the responses that we receive from the sites. For your kind attention, in the beginning of this webinar, we will have a brief announcement from our director, Brooke, on our new product, Exxat 1, and then we will be proceeding with the traditional slot request presentation, which is the agenda for today. And during the course of the webinar, we will be using the combination of live system and slides as and when needed. We will now have Brooke to provide the brief announcement on our Exxat 1 product, and then we will proceed with our traditional slot request presentation.
Awesome. Thanks, Ramya. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're at. So we got lots of questions ahead of this webinar, so I just wanted to jump on and just give a couple of specifics on Exxat 1. So this webinar today is focused on the traditional March 1st mailing that goes out through, that you guys typically use Exxat for. This is not an Exxat 1 webinar. So we will have 2 upcoming webinars on Exxat 1. One is this next Monday at the 12th, which is an introduction to show you how to utilize the platform, how to request slots, how to view slots that have been put forward by our pilot launch partners. And so you can see those listed as well. That's ATI, PRN, Concentra, Upstream, and then a selection of the Confluent Health group that's listed there in parentheses. We also have a couple more that we may be adding at the last minute, but just those for now. We'll also have a follow-up to that webinar on Tuesday, February 20th, as a Q&A for you guys to be able to come and get any additional questions or help that you need ahead of the March 1st mailing. A couple additional questions that we've had on Exxat 1 is when you guys, as Prism users, as Exxat users, will get access to the platform, and so you will automatically see a tile on your home page that will show up and say Exxat 1, no action needed on you guys' side if you're currently utilizing the system. That will show up in mid to late February. Not exactly sure on which date that's going to be, but we will send you guys out a message and you will see it on the front page. If you have any other questions ahead of the webinars that are coming up, you can email me at exxat-1@exxat.com, and I would be happy to either jump on a call with you or answer any questions that you have via email. So like I said, we're no more talk about Exxat 1 on this webinar. We will be addressing all of that next Monday. So I hope you guys have a great webinar and learn lots of great things. Thanks, Ramya.
Thank you, Brooke. All right, we can get started with the agenda for today. So today's agenda, we will be going over 6 items. In this, we will be probably talking about the prerequisites, right? Before you actually send out the March 1st mailer, what are the prerequisites that you need to fulfill so that your distribution list is set right? So that's preparing to send mailings. And then once we finish the prerequisite, we will talk about update location information request, how to configure them, how to send them out, and how the sites can view provide their responses. Once we are done with that, then we'll be jumping on to the actual slot request. Then once in the slot request section, we will be probably discussing about how to configure the slot request, how to send it out, and how you can manage the responses. So we'll be covering all those in section 3, 4, and 5. And towards the end of this session, we will be talking about how you can send out a slot request based on the student request. So we will talk in detail about all of this as we move forward with subsequent sections. Let's get quickly started with the section 1, which is preparing to send mailings. Right. Okay, so there are few prerequisites which you may need to check in before you send out your slot request or your update location information, right? This is to ensure that you have the right set of list created for your distribution, right? So the first thing that you need to make sure is every site that you have created has at least one associated location. Right? That means like if you have a site like say for example, Kaiser Permanente, for example, right? It should have an associated location added. If there is no location added to that particular site, then that site will not show up under the distribution list. Similarly, the next prerequisite is to ensure that you have at least one recipient added to a location, meaning that you have associated a SECE, or you have associated a site coordinator as a recipient to a particular location. The purpose of this is obviously if you don't have a person associated with a particular location, right, you will not be able to send out that email. Then the most important thing is you need to make sure that person that you have associated has a valid email address added, and then you have made sure that send slot request bit is set to yes. So these are the three major things or prerequisites or checks that you need to make sure that you have set this right, so that your distribution list gets generated appropriately. So let's quickly jump on to each one of this, right? Like how to do this and how to check all this. So the first thing is to look into the site details report. So let me quickly jump on to the live system so that it's easy for all of us to know how to do this. So please go under the sites tab, then go under the email section, go under the report section. So once you are under the report section, click on the site details report, scroll towards the right, and then you can see the associated location for each of the site. So wherever you see a 0, that means that this particular site does not have any location associated. So it is required that you click on this particular location, and then you make sure you add a location for that particular site. So this is one of the important parameter to check in. Otherwise, this particular site or location will not be showing up on the distribution list. Okay. So moving on to the presentation. So this is what is showing up on the presentation. So you go under the reports, the site details report, and then look up for locations 0, and then make sure you add them. Then the next prerequisite is to go under the location details report and then ensure that there is at least one personnel associated with that location. So let's jump back to the system. So I click on reports. I'll click on the location details report. Now here I am on the location details report. So scroll to the right, you will see associated personnel field. And if you see personnel 0, that means that there is no person associated with this location. So you can click on this. It would take you to the personnel section. Click on associate person. And here, obviously, if you had worked on the screen, you would be knowing this. If you want to add a new person altogether, just click on add person, provide the first name, last name, and then just provide the make sure that include and slot request bit is set to yes. And then obviously, if this person is an instructor, you can set this bit to yes, or if it is not, then you can mark it as no, and make sure to provide the email address. And once you have done all this, click on save so that the person gets added as a staff to this particular location. So this is the second check that we want you to make. So go into the sites, reports, and under location details report, you will do this check. Switching back to the presentation. So this is what is listed out here. So sites, reports, location details report, check for persons, personnel 0, that means that that location does not have a personnel associated. Moving on to the third major prerequisite, I would say. So again, switching back to the system, the live system. So here under personnel reports, you have something called as personnel location details report, right? So in this report, you would see the name of the person. They have an associated email address. And as you scroll to the right, you will have a bit which says slot request yes. Now I wanted to call out on how you can effectively use this bit. right? There are two purposes associated with this, right? So you want to make sure like this person definitely receives the slot request. So you're setting this bit to yes. And there is another purpose where, let's say you have 100 personnel added here, but out of this 100, you want to send it only to 90 of them. And then the 10 of them needs to be excluded from the distribution list. Let's say you have that scenario, right? Because that person is probably not reachable or out of office or on leave. So contacting them would not be ideal at this point of time, right? If you think that way and if you want to remove them from the distribution list, then I would suggest to use this bit efficiently so that you can click on the personnel name, go into their association. So click on the location to which they are associated with. Just click on the action button and make sure to remove this bit off. But if you want to send this notification to them, make sure you set this bit to yes. So all I wanted to call out was the purpose of this bit is to make sure you either include them into the slot request or you exclude them out of the request, right? So moving back to the presentation. So those are the three major prerequisites that we have. Any questions so far?
We don't see any questions posted yet as of now.
Just wanted to let you all know, please feel free to use the questions tab, and we'll be actively pausing during the presentation to check in on the questions, and I'll be more than happy to show whatever is requested for.
There is one question from Toby. Is there a simple way to make a site a location if it is a location?
Yes.
They want.
Yeah. So one of the option is whenever you're adding a site for the first time, right? Let's say you click on add new site, you provide the name and everything, right? The address. There is a bit which says make this site as a location. So when you're adding the site for the first time, you have this option to make a site as a location so that you don't have to create the location again. But once you have created the site, then the only way is to go into that particular site and add a location. Yeah. So the best bet is like when you're adding it for the first time, turn that bit to yes so that a location gets created automatically. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Ramya. We have one more question. If an individual is associated with several locations, will they receive several slot requests or just one?
So they are going to receive a single email. In the single email, when they click on the link, they'll be able to see the locations to which they are associated with. I'll be showing that scenario as well as we demo the slot request. Right. So a few more. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Annie.
I see a hand raise from Kimberly. Do you mind to just put your question in the chat so that we can address it? You can go ahead, Ramya. Thank you.
All right. So moving back to the presentation. So before I jump on to how to send the update location request, right? I wanted to call out two other optional prerequisite as we call it, right? So before you even send out the update location information, if for some reason, right, like you wanted to make sure the email that goes out to the site looks more personalized, meaning it shows that it is coming from you, right? Then I wanted to show you an option here. I think this was a question that came from Regis PT. So we wanted to show that to them as well, and everyone here could benefit out of this. So please go under program details, and then under school profile, if you scroll down, there is a section called as email setup. And in here, you can provide the name of your university. So what it does is, like if you click on this eye icon, it is giving you a description about this. all the email notifications that are going to go out from our Exxat Prism are going to go out from this email address, which is notifications@exxat.com, right? So any email that is going to go out, be it update location information request, or it could be the actual March 1st mailer, anything that is going to go out from Exxat, it's going to go out from this email address. But in prior to that, if you want to add a personalized note or the display name, then here is the place where you can put in your school name so that whenever they receive the email in their inbox, I just want to quickly show that to you. So this is a sample one that I have. Whenever they receive the email in their inbox, it's going to show up. Let me see. You can, I hope you're able to see this. Yeah, it says Exxat University notification at exxat.com, right? So it makes it a little bit personalized to say that this is coming from Exxat University or whatever university you belong to, but still the email address is going to be notifications@exxat.com. Okay. Now, so this is one thing that we wanted to call out. If you are interested to make your emails that go out to have a personalized touch to it, go under program details. So this is where it is. Let me zoom in a bit. So go under program details, click on the school profile and scroll to the end, and you can set up the display name. And you can also set up a default reply to here. So you can either set it up here, or when you're actually sending out the update location request or the slot request, even at that point, you can set up the reply to, but just wanted to call it out. Now, in addition to this, right, because we saw that all these notifications are going to go out from this particular email address, which says notification@exxat.com, right? There could be firewalls at the site's network, which could block these emails, right? Sometimes there are bounce backs where the firewall is blocking it or their network is restricting it, right? So what we recommend, right, in general is to send out this whitelist letter to your sites or agencies, right? So this is available in the help center. So this is available under help for school administrator. And if you type in whitelist communication from Exxat Prism, you will see this showing up. So you may have to provide this information to your sites to unblock these IP addresses. Now, you might have a question like how to send this email out, right? So there are again two more recommendations from us. Either you can send a mass email to all your site contacts from your personal inbox, and you can send this even before the update location information request, or you can wait to send the update location information request, wait for the emails that are getting bounced back. So let's say you send it to 100 people and then you got 10 bounce backs, and only for those 10 site contacts you can send this email out so that they can inform their IT team to unblock these IP addresses. So these are the two things that I wanted to talk about. These are not mandatory, but sometimes this could be useful when you come across this scenario. So just to reiterate, one is to make sure if you want to give a personalized touch to all the emails, go to program details, set up, and then make sure you set up the display name as your university name. But by setting this up, the emails are still going to go out from notifications@exxat.com, but a prefix to that will be added to mention the university name. And again, there is a whitelist communication letter. If for some reason there are email bounce backs, you can always send this notification to your sites to unblock these IP addresses. So I want to pause here and then hear if you have any questions. Ami, are there any questions?
Yeah, just a moment. I'm just reading through a few of them.
Yeah, there are a few questions. Ramya, I'll help you with a few of them which are coming. Yeah, the first question was around adding, I mean, can we convert a site into a location? As you explained earlier, it's not possible. You have to go into that site and add a location inside that, right? That's one part. And there were also questions around if we associate a person after we set up the slot request, will the email be sent to them? You should associate a personal to a location before we actually send the email, right? I mean, if you do after that, definitely they won't be receiving the email and link will not reach them. So all the associations of the personal to the location should happen before we even try and send the emails. That's the first part, right? And there's also a question: is the site name same as is site is same as parent in old system? Yes, we used to call parent group in our older version steps v3. We call it as site here, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So whatever we call it as, I know like some of you are new users who have recently migrated from version 3 to Prism. So just for your terminology sake, sites are parent location, I mean parent sites, as you call it in version 3. Locations are the children, basically. And then there is a one-to-many association available. So for each site, you can add multiple locations under it. Any more questions, Harsha or Ami?
Yes, Stacy would like to, sorry, they would like to know if can you have more than one email, like default reply to email? Can we add more than one default reply to emails?
So when you send out the slot,
No,
right?
yeah, yeah. When you send out, you are showing that default email setup, right? I think in that probably we currently do not have a way to have more than one email ID in reply to, but we'll take this suggestion or a feedback. We'll try to see if we can have that part done.
Yeah.
Also, are there any email templates that can assist to assist us to create our message to sites? The default email templates. They would like what are default email templates that we have currently in our system.
So most likely, right, under the slot request, we have the standard slot request email template available. So if you are about to send out the slot request, there is a standard text that is available. But whenever you're actually sending out the email, you have the ability to customize it. So that's the benefit of this system. You can create your custom template and then use that template for future references. But to answer to your question, we have a standard slot request template available, but for updating the location information, there is no standard template available. You may have to create one on your own. Okay, so we'll move on to update location information request. So why update? So what we are going to talk about under update location information is why we are going to send out this update location information. And the second part of it is going to be like when, I mean, it's just a recommendation, like when you can send this out. And then the third part of it is how you can send it out. So let's look into all those questions, right? Why update location information request, right? So there are four main purposes of doing this. The first purpose is to just get the latest information from your sites. So let's say you're sending your March 1st mailer on March 1st, probably 20 days or 15 days prior to that, you may want to send out this update location information so that you get their latest contact person name and email, or you can update their address information, or some of them have update their requirements. So those are the basic reasons for which you may want to send this update location information request. So that's the first purpose. The second purpose is to notify your clinical partners of any changes. So any changes that has happened from the school side, right? So if you want to communicate that to the sites or locations, now is the time. Then the third one is like introducing your clinical partners to the exact processes, right? Like for example, some of you would have migrated from version 3 to Prism. So your sites are going to get a email probably which would look a little bit different from what they used to get from version 3, right? So now is the time to introduce the new email outlook and all those to them. So you're giving them the chance to look at the email templates, or I mean the actual email that is going to come to them, and then the links that are going to come to them. So that's the other purpose of it. And the fourth, or the last one but not the least one, right? So you send out this request and obviously you'll be receiving some bounce backs. So that could be the reason could be either the email address is incorrect, or no, that person is no longer associated with that site, or the firewall at their system is blocking it, right? So you will come to know all these three statuses only if you send those emails out. So that's another purpose of sending this update location information request. So these are the four main reasons as to why we've heard from schools that are sending this update location information request. So moving on, so we answered the why part of it, right? So the next part is when. So it is always recommended that you send this during the first week of February, or probably by mid of February. So that's usually the recommendation that we give you. The purpose, as we already discussed, so once you send this out, you can take a span of about 15 days from when you send this out to update all the information that has come in so far, right? So you can update the address, or update the email address, or update the requirements, or even make sure you send out that whitelist letter to the site or clinical partners to make sure that they are not blocking our email addresses, right? So those are all the main purpose of doing this, and the general recommendation is to either send it by first week or second week of February. So before we move on to discussing how to do this, right? Are there any questions, Ami and Harsha?
I think the questions are on template. Probably you can show them when we get to the template section.
Sure.
Ramya.
Yeah.
And then I'll take a couple of other questions as well. Yeah, I think the whitelist letter is one. We have shared a link to the whitelist communication. You will find all the details there with respect to what IP addresses that we need to communicate, and what is the process. We can check that. That has a very detailed information, right? And the default reply, as I was earlier telling, like it was only one email ID that can go in. And what's the purpose of that? So if any site personnel replies to those emails, the slot request or update location, the email IDs mentioned in those default reply to will get a response, right?
Yeah. So whenever
Yeah.
whenever the recipient receives this email, right? So it is going to come from notifications@exxat.com. So whenever they click on reply and then they want to ask some questions to you, right? The reply to email address will show up to them whenever they click on the reply button. And then whatever text that they type in and send it out, it is going to get delivered to the reply to email address inbox. Yeah. Right. So moving on to see how to configure this, right? So this might probably answer most of your questions related to templates, scheduling, and all those. So let's get quickly started on this. So let's go. The first step is obviously you go under the Sites tab. And once you are here, you will go under Emails. So let me zoom in a bit. Yeah. So once you are under the Emails tab, you will click on set new communication. So you will provide the title. So probably if you're doing this for update location information, I'll provide that as a title. And then make sure to add this activity where it says request updated location information. So this is the add-on activity which you would have to enable. So the first one is something that you will turn on when you're actually sending out the March 1st mailer or the slot request. But at this point of time, somewhere in midweek of February, all you're going to do is request for updating the location information. So just turn on this activity and then go to the next step. So by default, the locations who are going to receive this email will have the ability to update the basic info, notes, requirements, housing, and personnel. So when I say they have the ability to update, it is not that they'll have an edit pen next to each one of these attributes. They click on that edit pen and make updates then and there. So we are not providing that capability. So all they will see is these information. So they'll be able to see the basic info, the notes, the requirements, whatever is available in your database. And we will provide a notes section for them to provide the information that they need to update on. So just wanted to call this out. So by showing this, all we are trying to say is these are the information that are going to be made visible to them. And then any updates to this, they can provide that in the notes box. Okay, so once they've selected all these attributes, they can add instructions. So you can add any instruction here or provide any announcements under this section, and you can upload any documents that you want to upload here and then click on save. So once you have done all this, just click on save. So I've already created one for updating the location information here. So I'll just quickly show this. So this is the one that I've already created, and I've added some instructions already. Sorry, I'll open the right one. Yeah, this one. So this is where you will set this up. So I've already configured the request. So once I configure the request, this is how it will start showing up on this dashboard. So it will show the title and then the activity, and then you're good. So the configuration is complete. So the way that we are going to organize this presentation on how to do this is, first we will do the configuration, then obviously we will send out the emails to the sites, then we will open up the site email on how this will show up to the sites, and then we will manage the responses, right? And how we will manage the responses. So let's go ahead and send this email out to the site. So in order to send this email out, so you will have to click on send emails. So here is where you get to see the send email section, in which you get to see all the locations that you have selected so far, or all the locations for which there is a valid personnel available, and all the locations for which there is a site association available. So the list gets generated based out of all those prerequisite checks that you have made in the beginning. Now, once you have done this, you can select the locations for which you can send this slot request out to. And then there are few filters that are available. Often we have seen this question come up whenever we have an individual meeting with the clients, is like, can I filter by a particular designation, right? Like what if I want to send this email out only to the SECs? Yes, you can do this. So you use the designation filter here, choose SECE here, so that by default your distribution list is sorted out to show up only the SECEs here. Okay. So just wanted to show this up. And then for some reason, right, if you want to see who are the list of people who are going to receive this slot request, right, you can just click on view list of personnel. And that list opens up in another tab, and you get to see all the name of the persons along with their email addresses. So you get to see this list one more time here. So there are about 110 recipients here, right? Then the other filter option, right? So here on top of this, you have a lot of filter options available. So you can use any of these filters to make sure you get the right distribution list, right? Let's say you want to send out the slot request only to the contacts in California. You can filter out by that particular site. And some schools use counties or regions, as they call it, and put all those regions under location area over here. So based on that, so once you have set all those location areas for each one of those locations, you can filter out by that, like South Texas, for example, or North Coast, for example, right? So you can filter out by those regions and make sure you send out the emails only to the particular staff that are associated to that particular location, right? And similarly, there are multiple other options that you have. You can also filter by email sent. Let's say you have sent out this request, but for some reasons you have filtered out certain locations in your previous send, right? And you wanted to know who are those for which you have missed sending out the slot request, right? Then you can filter out by email sent status as no, and then just see who are those, what are those locations for which you have not sent out the email, and then send out the email again. So those are all the filter options that you have on the screen, and you can make the best use of it. And obviously you have the filters by location settings, tags, and personal email preference. This is something that I want to call out. So by default, whoever has the bit send slot request bit set to yes are the ones who are going to receive this email notification. But for some reason, right, you have turned on the send slot request bit for some, and for some you have turned on the email notification bit to yes, right? Accidentally you have turned that on and you want to include both of them to this mailing list, then choose this option. That's it. So those are all the filter criteria that you have on the send page. I just want to take a pause here and see if there are any questions.
Yeah, I just want to add a couple of things to that, Ramya. If we can go to the filter. So sometimes it might happen that there are few sites or few locations which you don't want to send an email for, right? So you can actually tag them something like not for this year, M1M 2024 exempted or something like that, right? So you can actually come here and select rest of the tags, right? Even those locations which doesn't have any tags assigned. That's the first option. This has been recently introduced, and the rest of the other relevant ones, and only exclude those which you don't want to send out an email for. Right, so this specifically helps you to prune out those sites or locations which you don't want to send out the request for. This is at a location level, not at an individual personal or a SEC level, right? And then apply all those filters, and then directly come here and click select all, and then in one go you will be able to select rest of the locations as well, right? And the other option is like you may just want to send it to the active locations. Instead of tags, you can also mark them inactive if you don't want to use them. But usually tags is the better option if you don't want to send only this time, but you may want to have the affiliations going on later, right? So you guys can use the tags part for that.
Okay. Yeah. So the next thing that I want to call out is, like, in the past, or in, anybody who used Prism last year could have faced this pain point where, let's say you had about 200 or 300 recipients or 300 locations, right? So it might probably list this by 5 or 6 pages, right? So you have to go into every single page, do a select all, then click on next, and then do a select all, right? We made sure that is not going to happen this time. So I'll just quickly go into another instance of it and show you what I'm trying to say here. So I'm just sending out this. So here I have about 100 plus recipients in this, or 100 plus locations here. So once this loads up, you can see here there are about 800 locations, right? So last year what you need to do is just do a select all, then click on the next page, do a select all, right? Now we have introduced this capability where once you do a select all here, it is giving you an option where it says select all 859 locations. So once you do this, this distribution list is going to be frozen. So it means that all the 859 locations are selected and you are good to send the slot request to all of them at once. We have heard some queries from the clients asking, okay, out of this 859 locations, there are about 1,000 recipients, and out of those 1,000 recipients, I wanted to send this only to 900 of them. I want to exclude those 100, right? So if you want to handle that scenario, you know who those 100 recipients are, right? So then I would always recommend that please do that prerequisite check where you go to each individual personnel and then turn that send slot request bit to no for those 100 people, or I'm just making the number as 100, but usually it could be 10 or 20 people which you want to remove from the distribution list. Go to those individual personnel and turn off the send slot request bit to no. So that's the only way where you can exclude them from the distribution list. But all I wanted to call out was we have recently introduced this feature. Now you can select all hundreds of locations in one go. So any questions so far?
There are questions around templates. I think that's the next one you're going to cover, right? How do you create the template, the standard one? I don't see many questions around location selection.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we've configured the request. So we are in the send emails page where we just talked about how we can send the emails, how you can filter your email criteria. I mean, the filter, how you can use the filter criteria and filter out the distribution list. So the next step is you go and click on save and next. Now here is where, so I did not select the recipient. So let me go back. I'm choosing the abundant health. Now the next step is to compose the email, right? So here is where you can override it with your email address just in case if you want to send this to yourself and test it out. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this webinar, you can set up the reply to email addresses here. So I have set myself my email address as the default reply to address. So that's why it's showing up here. And then most of the time you want to copy yourself in all those emails. If that's something that's required, you put in your email address here. And if you want to upload any attachments, you can always upload that here. So that's how you can set up the CC and BC, and you can add attachments. Then the next important section is the template, right? So by default, what our system provides is a standard email template, which you can use to send out the slot request. That's it. So this is the standard template that we offer in your portal. So if you go in here, you might be able to see this showing up. But because we are going to send this for update location, right? Or updating the location, you may want to create a separate email template for your program. Something like this. How to do this? Just click on add template, provide a template name, provide the subject, and start typing in the content. One important prerequisite that I want to call out is even though this is an update location information, the site is going to receive an email with the link, and they have to click on the link to update the location information. So it is very much needed that in your email template, you include this request link there. So until and unless you include this request link, this site, even though they receive this email from you, they'll not be able to provide any updates to the location. right? So it is important to include the request link, because whenever they receive the email, they'll have to click on the link in that email and then provide the updates in the link. Okay, so we have already created one email template here, so you can see this. So this is a generic one that I have created for myself, where I have included the request link. And then once I have created this template, the next step is to go to the preview section. Now here is how this is going to show up. Now again, we have received questions from the programs that you wanted to know how you can schedule this, right? So if you want to send the emails right away, choose this option as send email now. Or if you want to schedule it, let's say you want to schedule this update location info on Feb 10th or Feb 11th, right? Just choose that date here using the date picker, something like this, right? And choose the time. So you can even choose the time here. So I've chosen the time here, and then you can schedule it. Okay, so I'm just going to schedule this. Yeah, so I've done this. So once I've done this, if I go and click on this particular email dashboard, I'll be able to see the status as scheduled. Okay, so I just want to pause here, and then take any questions if you may have.
There are few questions, Ramya, on the template side. I'll quickly cover those. There are questions around logo. For adding a new logo, or if there's any change that needs to be done, please reach out to Exxat support. The team will help you to get the right logo in the templates, right? There's one more question: can we edit an already made template? Yes, if it is a custom template which you have created before, then you can definitely edit it, right? But if it's the standard one, that is just for reference. That's not editable. You can copy paste these details in a new template, and then if you want to edit it, you can edit and save it as a new custom one.
That's doable. So you can always edit the template that you have created, but anything that is available as a standard one, you will not be able to edit it. Yeah.
There's one more question. Can you edit the emails when the schedules are sent? No, actually, if the emails are scheduled, they have not sent out, right? Then if any change needs to be done, then you should cancel those. There is a cancel option available. You can select those scheduled emails and you can cancel, and then change the template or whatever changes you need to be done. And then you can resend those emails or reschedule them. But if the emails are out, there is no way you can edit the content of the email, right? The emails are already sent out, so that's not possible. Yeah, if it is scheduled, and then you can cancel and do that, but once the emails are sent, there's no way.
Yeah, that's right. So once you've already scheduled it and you want to make changes to the template, the only way that you can do it is go to the email dashboard, select all the scheduled emails, and then just cancel them out, and then make changes to your templates and resend or reschedule it. Yeah. So moving back to the presentation. So just as a quick refresher, like whatever we have discussed so far, right? We were discussing about how to configure this request. So you can see this right under emails, you set up the new communication, and then you provide the title. Make sure you set this bit to yes, because you're going to send the update location information request, and then add any instructions that you may have, and then you're done with it. So your configuration is complete. Now, let's go ahead and see, now that we are going to send this email out, we want to see how the site can provide their responses, right? So I'm going to go ahead and send this email out to myself. And we can see how this is showing up to the site. I'm just overriding it to with my address so that I get this email to my inbox. So I'm going to send it right away. Okay, so I'll quickly open up my inbox. Yeah, I got this. So this is how the site is going to receive the email in their inbox. So as you can see, not sure if this is visible, but whatever subject line that you have given on that particular template shows up here. And because I have added a personalized touch, it shows Exxat University, but the emails are going to come from notifications@exxat.com. And now what the site can do is just click on this link. So I'm going to open this in an incognito window. Yeah, so the sites can click on the link that is available in that particular email and whatever instruction that you have posted, right? So I've just added some basic instruction for myself. So you can add any instruction that you would want to add. And once you've done this, the site can click on start. Now they get to see this, right? So they get to see the location here. They get to see all the information about that location, right? And whatever information that they want to update here, right? So they can always do that. So let's say I'm just putting a note here as housing and parking available, right? Once they have filled that information here, they just have to click on next and then click on submit. Okay, so this is how the site can provide more information about their location. So once they have made the update, they can always click back, click on start, and add more information. Right, something like this. So whatever update they want to do. So what we are trying to do is this link until it expires, it's going to be available for them, and then they can click back on this link and keep modifying this, right? So this is the option that they have. So once the site has provided their responses, I'm just going to close this window. We're going to go back as an administrator. Now I'm going to refresh this tab. So once the site has updated that information, right, you may want to see those responses. So where you would see this, you would go under update location information config, click on the response report over here. And then this is where you can see this showing up, right? So for this location, there is a response that you have received and who has updated it and when, and then you can click on the view details to see whatever information that has come in. So now let's say you see this housing and parking available. So you may want to click on that particular location. Go to the housing and parking section and make necessary updates. So let's say I'll go here. I'll just click on this and say housing provided, parking provided, and just say click on save. Then go back to the previous tab, click on this view details again and mark this as updated. So that's how I make sure that I capture the response that I have received. And once I capture it, I'll go to that particular location, make the necessary changes, and then go back to the previous tab and mark it as updated. Okay, so this is how you manage the update location information responses. Any questions on this, on how the site can provide the responses and how you can manage the responses that you have received?
Yeah, there are quite a few questions around this one. Today, it's a bit manual, wherein the site person have to enter the details in a note and then the school admins have to manually go and change those details, right? I know compared to our earlier the V3 version, this is not a good experience. We do have plans to enhance this one. We do want to come up with some sort of intake forms or a live link where any updates that have been done from the site side, those eventually come into the Prism application, and like in V3 you can just accept or reject them. So eventually we're gonna go there. Till then we have to we have this option, but yeah, definitely we want to enhance this.
So going back to the presentation, so you see how the site can click on it and provide their responses. So this is already made available. So that's how they navigate through that link and then provide their responses. That's it. So I'll quickly move on to the slot request, which is the most important topic for today. Let's see how to configure the slot request and what are the options that we have in the system. It's quite similar to what we have discussed so far for the update location information request, but we are going to add an extra activity to that particular configuration so that the site or the location which is receiving this email will have the capability to provide slots at a particular for a particular rotation or for a particular setting or whatever. So yeah, so we are going to see all these options as we go about with how to configure the slot request. So all I wanted to call out was today's topic is all about how to configure the standard slot request, and then we will also cover how the student requested sites can be reached out. So that's another option that we are going to discuss today. And then the last one is getting slots through Exxat One. As Brooke mentioned in the initial section of the webinar, that we are not going to cover this as part of today's webinar. If you want to know more information about that, please attend the Feb 12th webinar to get more details on how to get slots through Exxat One. So let's quickly move on how to configure the slot request. So I'm quickly jumping into the live system here. Quite similar to the update location information request, you will click on set new communication, provide the title as slot request, and then make sure you turn on this activity where you want to request slots from the sites. And even when you're sending out the slot request, right, if you still want your sites to update their information or you want to collect some latest information, you can always turn this bit to yes. But most of the time we've seen schools that they've not turned this on because they've already sent this request on Feb 15th or Feb 6th or somewhere around in February, right? So they'll always turn this bit to yes and then click on next. So just for your kind attention, this page is one of the most important section for you to set up, define parameters on how you want your sites or locations to offer slots, right? So the first thing is you may want to choose the rotations for which you need to receive the slots. So you may choose the respective rotations here. You can always filter out by calendar year and choose the rotations, or you can choose all the calendar years and then choose all the rotations here. Once you've done that, so let me choose all, then click on save. The next most important type is you can choose the settings, right? If you want your slots to, sites to provide only inpatient slots, right? You can just filter out only by the inpatient setting here so that they see only that particular option in their slot request, and then they can offer only inpatient slots. So this is the way where you can filter out certain settings. Now by default, whenever a site offers a slot, it will be added as a regular slot type. So meaning that by default, it is always regular if you don't choose any options under the slot type. But if you want your sites to provide only FCFS slots or an interview required slot, right? You can choose those options here so that your site sees only those options in their view. Okay. I think one of the school had posted this question, why does it always show up as regular? Because that's the default. But if you want to provide any criteria, or if you want your locations to mention that this is an FCFS slot or interview required slot, you can choose those options here, and then they see that on their request link, and they can provide slots with the type FCFS or interview required. Now, in addition to this, you can configure auto notifications. Like, let's say the slot is added by the site. If you want to send out an acknowledgement to the site, and if you also want to receive an acknowledgement, set this to yes, and then configure the email template for that. So by default, we provide a standard one here. Yeah, so you can always configure this here. Similarly, whenever a site chooses the option as contact later, if you want the system to automatically send out the slot request email on the contact later date, right? Then set this to yes. Now, there are other options as well. So let's say there is a site called as Abundant Health, and it has 10 different locations. Now you have sent a slot request to the site coordinator who manages all those locations. But at this point of time, the site coordinator knows that they have 3 or 4 inpatient slots to offer, but they have not decided on the location, right? But if you still want to collect those slot information from them, right, make sure to set this bit to yes, so that they have the site coordinator who is managing all the locations will have the capability to add a slot, but not specify the location at which it is offered. So this is one of the important parameter. I think most of the schools have asked for this. Now, here again, you have a lot of school contacts showing up. So these are none but the contacts at your school who you may want to get notified for, right? Let's say if a confirmation email has to go to, and if you want that to be sent to, say, Stacy, right? So you set this to yes. And if you want the confirmation emails to go to Erin, you set this to yes. And then if you set this bit to yes, where it says share contact information with site, the email, whenever the slot request email goes out to the site, they'll be able to see their contact information, like their name, email will start showing up in the slot request link. Now you might wonder why only 4 are showing up here, right? You have the control on who needs to show up in this configuration. So to do this, I would recommend you to go to the faculty and staff section. So basically it is pulling the list of people from the faculty and staff section. So all you need to do is, so let me just click on the sales. So you will go under the faculty and staff section. So this is where you would have added all your staff here, right? So you may want to click on the particular staff, and there is this section where it says contact sharing. So if you had turned this bit to yes, where it says share on site resources and email communication, if you set this to yes and click on save, that's when you configure the actual slot request, right? Where you go under sites, click on emails, and if you're actually configuring the slot request in this section, their name starts showing up here. If you set that bit to no, they'll not show up here. Okay, so these are the important steps in the configuration. So you choose your rotations, you can restrict the settings that show up on the slot request, you can restrict the slot types, and then you can configure the auto notifications, and then you can choose to decide whether that person can add slots where they do not know which location, where they have not yet decided the location, right? And then you can choose to decide who from the school needs to get notified. Once you have done this, click on save, and then the configuration gets created. So I'll just take a quick pause here and take any quick questions.
Yeah, Ramya, there are some questions around slot type. Yeah, the slot type, yes, when you're setting up the site, the communication, slot request communication, you can obviously choose what sort of values you want to show it to the site personnel, right? And this list is entirely customizable. It's not like a standard list we host. If you feel that you have some other options or this option doesn't make sense to you, the other options you want to add, please reach out to Exxat support with those values. We will help you configure with those list of options which you want to use. And again, whatever you select here, though you might want to have 7 or 8 values for overall school usage per perspective, but you just want to show only 2 or 3 values on the site side for the site personal, then those values you have to select here, right? And it's completely okay to select all or only 1 or 2 or leave it to the site people based on your school needs. You can decide on that. And there's also a question on regular. I think I'll reiterate, Ramya has already covered. If any particular slot doesn't have any value filled in this one, it just classified as regular. It's not a slot type as such. It's just one term to categorize all those slots which doesn't have any type, just like a regular slot or something, but it has nothing to do with type as such.
It's a default value. So if they have not chosen anything, or if you have not personally made any selections here, whenever a site offers a slot, it will be defaulted to a type called as regular. Yep. So moving back to the presentation, it's just reiterating how you can configure the request, set the title, turn on this activity, and then make sure you choose the rotations. Make sure you choose the auto notifications, the settings, and then the slot types. And you can always configure the email templates associated with the auto notifications. And then you can choose to decide who from the school needs to receive those confirmation emails. And if you want to add any instructions here, you can always add here, and you can upload any documents that you may want to. Yep. So that completes the configuration. Now we are going to send out the emails. So going back to the system again, so as we have already configured the slot request, all you're going to do is click on send emails. This is not different. I mean, this is quite similar to what we did for update location information. So you choose your locations, click on save and next, then compose your email. If you want to overriding is something you won't do it until and unless you want to test this out. So just click on next, then make sure to choose the right template here. This is going to be the standard slot request. So you choose the slot request template. Again, you can add your own templates here, customize it, make sure you add your own information here. And like Harsha mentioned, if you want to add a logo, just contact v4support@exxat.com so that we can upload your logo in a proper way. Then you can click on preview and then click on send email. Right. So the slot request goes to my inbox. So I'll just quickly open this up. So this is how the slot request email goes out to the sites, or the locations to be precise. So the location will have to click on this. So I'm just opening up this in a incognito mode. Yeah, so this is how it is going to show up to them. They have to click on start. Now, here is the scenario that I wanted to call out. So this person is a site coordinator and is associated with multiple locations. I think this is a question that came up in the beginning of the call. So just wanted to address this, right? This person who is the SECE is the SECE for couple of locations. So abundant health, secondary and tertiary. locations. So they have received one single email where it is listing out all the locations to which they are associated with. Now, if they want to add the availability, they can click on add availability, choose the instructor if they want to, choose the setting, the slot type, the supervision, and then provide the number of slots, right? And then click on save. So this is how the site can, the coordinator can add slots at individual locations. So I'm going to add it at another location as well. So here they can say clinical instructor not known. Yep, they can add the slots and then click on save. So this is how they add availability. So you can see multiple combinations, right? So this is a location. These are the two locations to which they are associated with. And then they have added slots at both the locations. Now coming into the question where this person is a site coordinator, now they have, let's say, an inpatient spot, but they do not know whether it is offered at the secondary hospital or at the tertiary hospital, right? So then they will be seeing this option where it says location not yet decided. Now they can click on add availability. Here it says location not known. They can still choose a CI, and then let's say they choose the setting as, let's say I'm choosing subacute, for example, and then provide some slots, right? So this is how they can add a slot at a location, I mean, where they do not know to which location they can add those slots to. So here, this person does not know, they have 10 subacute spots, but they have not decided whether it needs to be added under secondary or the tertiary location, right? So they can do so at this point of time using this. Okay, and then once they have filled in all these information, they can just click on next, and it's going to give them this nice summary of what they have added so far, and they can go ahead and click on submit. All right, and then just like how they had that option on the update location information request, they can click back on this link, click on start again, see what they have filled here, and if they want to add more, they can always do that. All right. And if they want to edit some of these, they can always do that as well. Like if they want to add 2 more slots, 2 more subacute spots, right? They can always do that. Yep. So I'll just quickly hop back to the site, the presentations, and I just want to quickly reiterate the sending process, right? So far what we saw was how they can configure and how the emails can be sent out. So we are going to reiterate that using the slides. So they click on this, click on the send emails, choose the locations, and they have the option of select all here. Click on next. Use any filter criteria that they want to use. And then click on compose email. Make any changes to the template that they need, that you want to do. If you want to add a new template, you can always create your own custom templates. In the preview screen, you can either send it right away or you can schedule it for a later point of time. Yeah. And then we have discussed this cancellation option, but just for the purpose of reiteration, I'm just showing this again in the slide. So you go into the email dashboard. Let's say you have scheduled some emails. You can always come to this email dashboard, select all those, and then you can cancel them. That way the emails get cancelled. Or if you want to resend them, you can always redo the send. You can see the status getting updated as cancelled. And we saw how site will receive an email with the link. And then they can click on the start and start to offer the availability. So here they'll click on add availability and provide the number of slots for a particular rotation. Again, so going back to the live system, right? So let's say if the site wants to choose the option of contact later. So let's say they don't have a slot at a particular location, right? They can always, instead of clicking on the add availability, they can choose the option as contact later and put in a date at which they can be contacted later, right? And then obviously if they want to change the response, they can click on the change response button and say I have, either they can add an availability or they can say I don't have any slots to offer. So they can choose any of these three options. They can either add a slot or say contact later, or they can say unable to accept, or they don't have slots to offer at this point of time. So they can choose any of these three options when they are providing the response and then submit it. All right. So I just want to take a quick pause here. So all we have covered so far is how to configure the March 1st mailer or the slot request, how you can send this out, and then how the sites can view those links that you have sent out and how they can add availability, and then how you can manage the emails that you have sent out. If you want to cancel it or resend it, what you need to do. Any questions so far?
Yeah, there are a few questions. The first one is around expiration of this link. Again, as earlier explained, the links come with a 365 days of expiration, and before that, the site personnel are free to add all the slots. And there's also a question around what does a bounced and a dropped email means. Bounced usually comes whenever there is an email ID which is invalid, right? Or the subscriber of the email, they have unsubscribed this particular email ID from which the emails have been sent, right? Notifications at Exxat or something. If they have unsubscribed, then usually in those scenarios the email will be classified as bounced. It will not be reached out. And sometimes these bounced email IDs, whatever the invalid email IDs, the system will catch, and next time if you try to send them an email again which were bounced earlier, then it would go into the dropped, because these are invalid email IDs, or the email have been unsubscribed. So this is the difference between bounced and dropped.
Okay.
And there are also questions around notifications. Yeah, whenever slots have been added, the person who has added the slots will get an acknowledgement email with all the slots that have been added, which you could set it up in your setup section, right? In the auto notification section. Not only the site personnel, even the people who have selected from the school section, right? Even those will receive an email that citing that so and so person has added the slots and below are the details, right? And for contact later, definitely on that particular day or the date which the site personnel has chosen, an automated email from the system goes out as a reminder with the link on that day, right? For requesting the slots.
So just to reiterate whatever Harsha said, when you're doing the configuration, make sure to turn these two bits to yes, so that you get the slot confirmation, and then the site partners also get the confirmation email, just like an acknowledgement. And then again, the contact later, if you don't set this to yes, that means the response will be captured as contact later. But if you want to send them an email again on that particular date so that they can offer slots. That cannot happen until and unless you set this bit to yes. Yep. And then going back to the email responses, this was something that I was about to cover in a bit. So we have so many statuses of failure, right? Let's say an email gets bounced. That means the email address is either invalid or the emails are unsubscribed by the recipient. That means that they have put you in a spam, put that particular notifications at exxat.com in spam or something like that. So that's when it gets bounced. Now, when you see the status as deferred, right, that means that the mailbox provider, meaning at your recipient side, like whenever the location staff or the site coordinator receives an email, right, their mailbox provider or their network is not accepting emails from us. So it's more like a block on the blog that has been posted on their mailbox, right? So those are the two different statuses. When an email bounces, either the email address is invalid or they have put you on spam or on the restricted list. So that's why it is getting bounced. Deferred means it is usually the firewall that's blocking. Now, what is dropped, right? So let's say for the first time, the system tries to send the email to a recipient. Now they have put you on the spam list. So the second time, if you try to send the same recipient another slot request email, right? Now the system will recognize this and say, okay, your email address is probably put in under the spam. So we are not going to send that email, and it gets dropped in the beginning itself. Okay, so the system is a little bit intelligent to say that it got bounced for the first time because the recipient has put you in their spam list. So next time if you try to reattempt to send this, it'll be suppressed, or it'll just say it'll not go. So it goes to the status as dropped. Okay, so these are the three statuses. Probably those are the three failure statuses that we have. Which you may want to know. Any questions on this?
There's an ask to see if there's any detailed explanation of these statuses exist in Help Center portal. Yes, definitely we have. We'll just share this link. We'll also put this link in that email dashboard itself so that you can right away see these details there.
Right. So coming to the another topic for today is about managing the responses. Right. So let's say you've sent out all the update location info, or you've sent out the slot request and you've started receiving the responses. So we went into the response report in the beginning to see if there are any update location information that came in, right? In the beginning of this webinar, we saw like this site has updated some information, like housing and parking is available. Now we saw this for update location information, right? Now let's go ahead and see how the responses are flowing through for a slot request configuration. So you go under the response response report. We saw that we have added some slots against each one of these locations. So you get to see this right here. Okay. Like if the slots are offered, you can click on view slots and you get to see what are the slots that were offered. Yep. So you get to see the slots that are offered. So all those slots that were offered are going to show up here. Okay. Going back to the response report, right? Now we have some of these statuses because the slots were just offered, right? So let me take an older configuration, and I wanted to show you different statuses that we have, right? So that we can address what each one means and then based on that go about. just taking one of the configuration where you are able to see multiple statuses. Yeah, there you go. So you can see all these, right? So the slots are offered. You would see the status as slots offered. Then the other thing is if there is no response from a particular location, right? You might see the status as no response, and you can always filter by this particular type from the email dashboard and resend the slot request to them. So that's another thing that you have. And if the sites have mentioned explicitly to you stating that I do not have any slots to offer at this point of time, you get to see the status here. Then there is another option where if it is to be contacted later, right? Like if the site mentions that you can contact them at a later point of time, you get to see that status here. Now, recently we have introduced another option. So let's say the site does not respond through the slot request link, but instead emails you directly and says, I can take 2 students. Let's say this is the site, right? So this location tells you that, okay, I have a slot, or they make a phone call to you and say, I have 2 slots to offer. Then you go into that particular site. And then let's say you are adding the slot manually. So if that's the case, the system is going to capture those slots, and then it is going to update the response here as slots offered, but below that it's going to mention an additional statement telling that it is updated by school. So I'll quickly show how this will look like. I just want to go back to the presentation and quickly show that to you. Yep, so I'm just going to the response report. I'm just showing the update location information request. Let me quickly go to the slide where you can see this. So here is where you see those statuses, right? So you can see this is how it is going to show up. Yep. So I'll probably show it in the system for you so that it makes more sense. All I'm trying to say is if the site has personally contacted you and then mentioned that they can take 2 students and you are going to go into that particular location and you are going to add that slot. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to go to this particular location. And then I'm going to go to the slots page. And then I click on this edit pen and then I add a slot. This is going to show up. Sorry, I think it's taking a bit more time for me to load. Let me see if I can.
Can you select a different location where no response is added?
Yeah, so let me choose this one. Yeah. So probably I'll try to show this towards the end of the webinar, but all I wanted to call out was we have introduced a new feature right now. Let's say if the slots are coming to you over phone and if you get to add those slots manually, instead of showing this up as no response, it is going to show up as slots updated by school. So that's the thing that we wanted to show it to you. Yeah. Any questions on this so far while I add those slots? No? All right. Okay, so moving back to the presentation. So let's
So
quickly
one
go.
thing I want to quickly add on to this, Ramya, if you can go to that report. One way to weave the added slot is to go to that report and then you go to that particular location and then you can weave the slot. If you want to weave a consolidated list of slots across all the locations, right, then you can visit to the placement slot section. The message is put in that blue box at the top, and then you can create a placement group considering all the courses or all the rotations which are part of that particular request, right? And then in the slot section you can see the consolidated list. It has a dashboard which shows the slots by settings, by different rotations, and also by type and the status as well. This is a summary view of that, and the individual slots in the list view can also be seen. That is across all the locations which I've offered for the rotations for which you have sent the slot request.
Yeah. All right. So moving back to the presentation. So we are seeing how you can manage the responses, right? So one way is go into the email dashboard, look into multiple statuses, like you can see whether the email is scheduled or canceled or it got delivered, clicked, or it got bounced. So you can see all those statuses here on the email dashboard. You can see the subject, whatever you've added, and then you can click on it to see the email that got actually sent. So let's say if a site comes back to you and says, oh, I have not received this email, right? Or they have some difficulty in clicking on the link. And if you want to resend this, either you can select this particular row and then resend the email again, or you can just click on the subject line, copy this link that you see here, and just send that link to them in a personal email, right? So that's one way of resending the link to the respective location. Yep. So then you will click on the response report. That's where we saw multiple options. So if you are seeing the response report for update location information, you will just click on the view tile, and then you get to see all the information that has come in through this section, and then you can make those required changes at that particular location and come here and mark it as updated. Then the next thing is this is for your slot request. So if you have send the slot request and if you want to manage the responses, so again you go into the response report and you get to see all the different types of slot request responses, like slots offered, contact later, no response, and you can also see it is showing up as updated by school. Now you also have an action button at the end of each of this, and then you can click on it and make sure you edit the response. Let's say a school mentioned to contact later, right, in the link, but they made a call to you and said, I don't have any slots to offer. Then you can come to this page, click on the edit pen, and then mark it as no slots to offer. So these are the ways through which you can manage the responses. So you can manage the email responses, or track the email history and manage the responses, or you can see what are the slots that has come in so far and then what you need to do next. Any questions so far? I know like we are reaching towards the last few minutes of this session, but just want to hear more from you.
I don't see any new questions, Ramya.
All right. Now let's go back to the presentation. There could be some scenarios where you want to collect the student preferred locations, and then you want to send out the slot request only to those locations. So if that's the case, we have a solution in our product and we wanted to showcase that to you, right? What you need to do for this is to make sure you open up a location based wish list, then collect the student preferences. Once you collect the student preferences, you can directly place the student at those locations using the direct placement option. Now, once you have done that, then use the email section from the placement section to send out the email to the sites or to the locations telling them that this is the student who wants to come to you and can you offer a slot, right? And if they respond back to you and say, okay, I can take this student, you keep the placement. Or if they say, we don't have a slot at this time, then you can delete the placement. So this is the solution that we are proposing to the programs on how to do this, right? So just wanted to show this to you in the live screen. It might take few more minutes. So I go into the placements tab here, go to the placement group that I have already created. Make sure I open up a wish list. So this wish list needs to be a location-based wish list, right? So once you are here, you select all your students and then you've set up the location-based wish list. Now the students, so this is a student login. So I don't want to go in detail to this, but I just want to give you a quick summary of how this is going to happen. Now the students are going to say, let's say this student wants to choose a particular location in their wish list. And then they have ranked them, and then they are going to submit this wish list. All right. So let's say the student has chosen the secondary hospital as their number one choice. Now you go back to the wish list management section on your view. Yep. And towards this, you get to see the submitted wish list. So you see that this is their number one choice. Then what you do is you go back to the placement screen, right? So I'm going back to the placement screen here. And I'm going to choose this student, Deetra, and then put her into that particular abandoned hospital, right? So I choose the direct placement option here. Choose the site that she has chosen in her wish list, which is this one, and choose the required parameters here, and then place the student here. All right, so once this is done, I'm going to go to the email and publish tab here, and then I'm going to choose by the particular student name, and then select this person, and then click on, go to the locations tab here, choose this particular placement, and then click on compose email. Now once I click on the compose email, in that particular email section, you can create your own custom template. So this is what we wanted to show it to you. So once you make that custom email template, you can write a text where you can mention that this student is interested to come to you, and then based on that you can decide whether you want to keep the placement or delete the placement based on the site's preference. So I'm just choosing a template here. So in here, we have created some templates where I can choose and create a particular choice. And in here, I can mention this is the student who is going to come to you, and you can customize this template, right? And then send a notification to your sites. Now, when the site responds back, if they say, I have a slot and I can take this student, then you will keep this placement. So you will go ahead and keep this placement, right? But if the site says that I cannot take this student, then you will click on this particular placement and then just delete it. That's it. So this is the solution that we wanted to offer to you, just in case if you want to send out a location that this is the student, send an email to your location mentioning that this is the student who wants to come to you, then this is one of the options that we have. I know we are quite closer towards the end of our webinar. Are there any questions?
No, Ramya, there are no new questions.
All right. I know. I think we've covered this in the live section, so I'm skipping the slides. I just wanted to tell you that these are all the resources that we have. So you will be receiving Tuesday tips from communications@exxat.com. And then this is the link to the whitelist letter that we have. And there is also an upcoming webinar on March 5th to talk more about how to manage the responses and how you can manage the FCFS, the first come first serve slots, and how you can follow up with sites, let's say if they have mentioned to contact later and all those. So here is the registration link for that particular webinar. So that's the M1M webinar part 2. So make sure to attend it so that you get the 360-degree overview of managing the March 1st mailer. And then I'm not sure if there are users in V3 who have hopped in. If that's the case, we have provided some additional help center videos and V3 webinars, just in case if you're still planning to use version 3 for slot request, you may refer to it. But yeah. All right, I think we've tried to complete this right on time. If there are any questions, please feel free to post it out right now, or you can always email your queries to v4support@exxat.com, and then we'll be more than happy to help you out. And then you can always reach out to your account managers if you need to schedule a call and discuss about this